Shutdown domestic violence shelters are still not receiving funds from government programs, causing those in rural counties to close. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Peyton Yeager. KNWA's Katie Davila is live in studio with the latest on shelters that are soon closing and where Northwest Arkansas shelters stand. Katie.
Last week, we brought you up-to-date information on how the government shutdown is taking away funding for domestic violence shelters around the state. Now some are closing and others are looking at where they can turn to keep their doors open.
Essentially, now they only have as long to operate as they have funds in their account to cover.
The government shutdown continues into week 2, and domestic violence shelters are fighting to find funding from other sources.
We accrue those expenses over time, and then we submit the receipts and the timesheets that are relevant to the government, and then we get the reimbursement. So when the government is shut down, we cannot submit for reimbursement.
The Peace at Home shelter of Northwest Arkansas gets almost half of its funding from the government reimbursement program. Unable to access these funds for much longer could cause it to suspend services, bringing a lot of uncertainty for survivors.
It really becomes life and death for them, because where do they go? A lot of survivors might choose to return to an abusive partner at that time.
How are they going to survive or eat or go to take the kids to school next week? You know, all that stuff. So it's just really a really bad situation.
At times like these, Eva Terry, development director for Peace at Home, says they must rely on donations and help from the community.
We're having to pull from reserve funds in order to cover those costs. Is obviously not something that we can do forever. Those different diversified funding sources help in times like these whenever we can't receive our reimbursements.
Beth Goodrich from the Arkansas Coalition Against Domestic Violence says no matter the size of the shelter, everyone must look at what funds they still have and their plan for the victims and survivors.
We are a rural state. We have many STAR programs who receive the majority of their funding through this funding stream. So we're working with programs right now to help figure out at what point do they lay people off, at what point do they have to close doors. Everybody's planning for that now.
I spoke with the Northwest Arkansas Women's Shelter, who says it does not have to rely as heavily on government funding, so it will continue to run smoothly. For more information on shelters around the state that are closing, head to our website at nwahomepage.com. Live in studio, Katie Davila, KNWA Northwest Arkansas News.